Hey there, and welcome to the Windsor Star News Cafe. I'm Kristy.
And I'm McArthur.
Alright, so we talked about it yesterday, and it did not turn out at all how we thought it would.
Yeah, it was a crazy night at City Council, and nobody saw it coming. They didn't appoint Angelo to fill the Ward 7 seat. There's not going to be a by-election, and as a matter of fact, no one really knows what's going to happen now.
Yeah, I watched it last night on TV. Of course, they were looking to fill Percy Hadfield's old ward seat, Ward 7. They had three options pretty much. They could either hold a by-election, appoint the runner-up, who in this case was Angelo Marignani, or they could appoint someone else. We had a poll running all day yesterday on our website. The runaway was appoint the second place person. Second was a by-election, and trailing far behind was appoint someone else.
Yeah, like they picked the absolute worst option of the bunch in terms of popular support in our online poll, and just anecdotally what people are talking about. I came out pretty fiercely yesterday. I think they should save the $100K and the by-election cost and appoint Angelo, but I conceded that it was pretty tough to argue against holding a by-election. I mean, power to the people. We fought in the World Wars, to give people, sort of the right to vote. It's a sacred franchise. Sort of hard to argue against it, but hey, City Council, congratulations, you did it. It's more like a victory to the oligarchs. City Council is now going to choose, who's going to represent the people of Ward 7. And on our comments on Twitter, on Facebook, people aren't happy about this.
No, it's kind of a confusing process right now. So all they know right now is that they're going to appoint the next candidate, or appoint the councillor for that ward. They don't know how they're going to go about doing that. There's not really a process right now. GENIAC kind of floated out there, and I think this is what they did in Toronto, where candidates can put their names forward, and then council will select from the people that kind of, volunteer themselves for that position. But you're right, it's kind of a ridiculous scenario. I think it was Hillary Payne last night who said that Marignani came in second. There were still over 2,000 people that did vote for him. So it's not up to council. Council isn't part of that ward. It should be up to the people who already put their names forward and said, I want to support this person.
Well, exactly. I mean, and Hillary Payne also said we're in uncharted territory, and indeed they are. I mean, there's nothing that says council can't now, at this point, decide this over a couple of coffees behind closed doors and completely disregard public input. I mean, they could, in theory, have everyone submit their names, including Angelo, who came second. Maybe some of the other candidates, and do it that way. He could still come in that way, but there's nothing that says that has to happen. I mean, there is no process. That's the crazy thing. They have 60 days now. Yeah. That's the deadline to pick a candidate, but now when they could be maybe focusing on some other more weightier issues, they're going to have to figure out this council idol stuff, and you know how these guys go. That's probably going to,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Who knows how this will play out. Props to Angelo. He was in the galley the entire night, and we talked to him after council made the decision. He was pretty calm and collected about it. He said that he actually favored a by-election.
Yeah.
So we actually have a clip of him that Dalton Chen took right after last night's council.
Pure democracy. It was a debate. It was a really interesting debate, and there was so many twists and turns in it that it was very interesting. I mean, I really wanted a by-election. I thought that was the way to go, in all reality, because that is the purest form of democracy. But if the people of Ward 7 wanted an appointment as a result of saving cash, 100,000, the numbers that they're using were based on the 2010 election, so it probably went up. It's going to be close to 100,000, which will employ a lot of people with overtime and that sort of thing that we could direct towards, let's say, parks and that sort of thing. You could have saved some money, but what happened tonight was really interesting. I'm very excited about it, and I'm looking forward to the next step. I mean, I was really kind of keen on the election. Appointment would have been nice, but it wasn't something that I was looking forward. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought it was going to go towards the election. I'm ready for the election. But now I'm not too sure what's going to happen. Is it going to be like the, some sort of auditions that are going on? I don't know.
And Angela, what do you think about some of the justifications the councillors gave for defeating the by-election?
They were what they were true reflections of people on the streets. What they were what people were saying to them. And that's what a councillor really should do. A councillor should reflect the voices of his residents. So what they were doing, in fact, was what every councillor should be doing, and that is really being the voice of their residents, of their wards. And I think they were doing that tonight. Many people that I spoke to were saying, yeah, we don't want another election. election, the turnout's would be dismal. It wouldn't be that great. So I was kind of hoping for that election, but I mean, what we saw tonight was democracy, another form of democracy. But now it's, where do we go from here? That's the big question. That's the interesting question.
Yeah, it's unclear, but so administration will have to get together and come back with a report. Will you be submitting your name, I guess?
Of course, naturally. I mean, I want to be the first one submitting my name, and for that process, and I'm looking forward to that process. I mean, whoever gets the seat will have earned it. That's for sure.
Okay, all class, all the way. Angelo favored a by-election, and just like we told you in our opinion poll, we're going to show you a little graphic now. Overwhelmingly, 62.9% of you favored appoint Angelo, who came second to Percy, and then second choice, of course, was a by-election, and a distant third was appoint somebody else. The reaction fast and furious today on Twitter. We're going to show you a couple of tweets. This is one from what?
Who are we going right now?
Okay.
Well, Kieran McKenzie reached out first. He just wanted to thank the councillors, Bill Mara, Alan Halberstadt, and Magny, who he says were working to defend democracy last night.
Because they voted in favor of a by-election.
That's right.
Mara actually had a great quote, and this is what Mara said last night. There are 16,272 citizens that are eligible voters in Ward 7. I think we should have erred on the side of caution and allowed democracy to unfold.
Yeah, no, and he's got a point there, but the fact is that you're not going to get 16,000 people come out to the polls, right? So
right, and well, this is you're lucky to get 30% in a by-election. I mean, for 100,000, turnout's going to be very low. Eddie Francis, he was a little bit wishy-washy because Mara had called for an expedited by-election.
Right.
Francis didn't really favor that, but he favored a by-election, and he kind of had to because that's how he got onto council. Of course, that didn't stop Ron Jones. Ron Jones got onto council by a by-election.
That's it, yeah.
And last night he doesn't favor a by-election this time around because the circumstances are fundamentally different. Exactly. Last time it affected Ron Jones. This time it doesn't. So yeah, quite different.
That's it. We also had Caroline Jacobson reach out. She lives in Ward 7. She says she's not a fan of this decision. Government chooses government. This is the silliest idea that she's ever heard.
Exactly. And it's sort of hard to argue with that. So keep those tweets coming and check out the Facebook comments beneath the story. Again, people aren't happy. Now in Toronto, they're facing the exact same situation. They voted yesterday 22-11 against a by-election. So same thing, council is going to appoint someone there. And people make the argument that's going to have the candidate beholden to councillors, right, as opposed to, responding to the constituents. But interesting, Doug Holliday, the guy who won the seat at Queen's Park, he's actually said what he wants to happen, who he thinks the preferred candidate should be. So I tweeted Percy Hatfield today to get his reaction. I mean, he made this mess, right? His political ambitions made this mess. Props to Percy onto Queen's Park, but don't forget us little people. Don't forget the Ward 7 residents that you agreed to serve for 4 years. What do you think should happen now? And what do you think of council's decision last night? We reached out to him on Twitter. Let's see if he still checks his inbox.
Yeah, no response as of this moment, but we can see what happens there. Mayor Eddie Francis did say last night that even though there isn't someone in that seat right now, it doesn't mean that those people are going to go unaccounted for, that if people do have questions, they can call the mayor's office or 311, and there will still be someone there to look after them.
Now, the interesting thing, too, right, is, in these 60 days when there's no one sort of in that seat, councillors make money for sitting on all of these boards, right? And they split this pot of money. It really adds up when you factor NWIN and WAC. I mean, half their salary is divvying up these pooled board payments. So there's a little more money in the kitty now because Percy's not getting paid. So maybe they could do something, donate that money to charity or something, or at least, it doesn't seem right that they should make extra money at over 60 days when Ward 7 is denied adequate representation.
Yeah, no, that's very
because
good.
We could have had a representative last night. Instead, they got to wait 60 days.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll see where that goes. Stay tuned, and we'll let you know as soon as we find out what's going to come of this.
Oh, and sorry, I forgot this. Not everyone's on Twitter, but the letters are already actually flowing in. If you notice, we post letters on our online as soon as we get them. So Joshua Hero Haddon of Windsor, he wrote a little letter blasting this decision, and he says this: a grade 10 civics student can see that this is a slap in the face, not just to us in Windsor, but to every person in history who has fought for our democratic process. Democracy was defeated today. Keep those letters coming.
Very good. Yeah, I read that letter too. He said he had to explain to his mom. Is this the one? Exactly what went down, and he said, I'll explain it to you in the simplest form possible. And just by doing it, it's a great read. It does show that it does seem like a pretty ridiculous resolution of how this unfolded.
Yeah. And the best thing about the letter too is that he says, look man, everybody saw this coming. Like, it's not like Hatfield won in a squeaker, okay? We know for months this thing was going to be vacant, Percy was going to win. Like, this could have been settled a long, long time ago. There really was no need to wait this long and leave taxpayers on tenterhooks.
Everyone just left shaking their heads last night, so pretty crazy. It is insane.
Yeah.
All right, well, front page story today. Police are looking for a possible serial sex predator who has already targeted 2 women within the last month. This person has a light-colored minivan. The first incident happened on August 11th around 12:40 a.m. They were called to the 500 block of Goyo Avenue, where a woman was walking alone and a man pulled up in his van and offered to give her a ride. Once she got into the van, the man I guess groped her, wouldn't let her out of the van, so he started to pull away, and it was while they were driving, he was making a corner, that she actually jumped out of the vehicle because he slowed down to make a turn. People ran to see if she was okay, and at that point the guy fled. The second incident happened on
Sunday. Yeah, Wyandotte in Victoria.
Exactly. Police responded around 1:30, where there's another woman who was walking on her own, was offered a ride. She accepted. This time it was a little more aggressive. They drove to a parking lot somewhere in the city's west end. They believe it was near the bus terminal. And when she tried to get out of the van, he held her back and kept the door shut. He actually punched her in the face as well, and they say that she was sexually assaulted. She was taken to hospital just to treat the wounds to her face. And the suspect, again, is described as an Arabic or white male with dark, curly shoulder-length hair. He did speak with an accent and had a slender build. The van is described as an older model, light-colored minivan that was likely about 5 years old.
Okay, now police are not officially saying, confirming that these 2 incidents are related, but they're definitely probing a link. They think that they are, and they are advising a woman, just be careful out there, be smart. Don't get into any cars with strangers, okay? Be very careful, and if you see anything, if you hear anything, if you know anything, contact police at 255-6700.
Yeah, extension 4305. We're always to Crime Stoppers anonymously at 519-258-TIPS.
Okay. To the lighter side of the police beat, someone got a little surprised when they went to the garbage bin in Chatham.
Yeah, I couldn't believe this when it came across this morning, but a man was going to throw some garbage into a large garbage bin. I think it was late last night when he opened it up to find that there was actually a naked man sitting in the garbage bin. So there was a 50-year-old Chatham man. He's been arrested and charged with an indecent act. He's actually being held in custody until his bail hearing.
Fully clothed, I can only assume with the orange prison jumpsuit. And then a bit closer to home, LaSalle Police, they sent out a sketch yesterday of a man who was committed an indecent act in the schoolyard of Sacred Heart. Thank goodness the kids were on summer vacation, but still, take a look at this sketch. If you know this guy, if you see this guy, contact police. We don't want people running around doing weird stuff in our schoolyards.
Yeah, he's described as a white male, about 50 years old, clean-shaven with grayish-white, short, wavy hair. He had an athletic build with broad shoulders. Again, if you know any details or this sounds familiar, call LaSalle Police at 519-969-5210 or Crime Stoppers again at 519-258-TIPS.
Okay, the city of Windsor, the county, everyone is getting pumped for the Tall Ships Festival that's coming out this weekend. It's one of our favorites, and the boats, they're already arriving. One is down in Dieppe Gardens at the foot of Willette, the Sea Dragon. Chris Thompson with the front page story on it today.
Yeah, very interesting story. It's a research vessel. There's actually students from, I think there's a San Diego student who's on there, environmental research, but they're actually going through studying the health of the Great Lakes. What they're noticing is that there are a lot of small plastic particulates that are getting, that they're collecting in the lakes. Actually, while they're in the Detroit River, they have this net that they can actually throw out there, and the current's strong enough that they're collecting all this. But they're saying that a lot of these small plastics are coming from makeup containers, things like that.
Because John Rillo got caught in the net.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So he didn't make it.
He didn't make it.
But yeah, so that's a big issue. They say, especially in the Great Lakes, it's a big issue because of the ocean. Obviously, you have a much more volume, so it's not as harmful. But Lake Erie, it's a shallow lake, a huge population focused around it. So they're doing some cool things. They'll be down there all week. If you have any questions, you can go talk to them. You will be able to actually board the vessel come this weekend, and they will show you around.
Exactly, and interesting history to the Sea Dragon. It's gone 113 kilometers across the Atlantic and Pacific since 2009, and actually it began its life in the year 2000 as one of 12 $2.5 million yachts taking part in Britain's Global Challenge. So really, it's once in a lifetime opportunity. Once a year, I guess, if it happens every year.
Yeah.
Get down to the river, man. These are really cool. These tall ships come rolling in.
Yeah, it'll be excellent, and the weather should be good. There's actually a heat alert for today, even though it is overcast and cloudy. The health unit has advised people to stay inside, don't do strenuous activities during the peak times of the day, and stay hydrated.
Okay, and coming up later today, Strasbourg, they're holding remember there's a big lawsuit filed over those Indian road homes.
That's right.
Against the Ambassador Bridge. They're having a public meeting at Mackenzie Hall. Tonight we're going to be covering that, so check back for coverage on that. Thanks for stopping by. We may or may not be here tomorrow. Depends on whether city councilors appoint us or not. So that's it. Have a good day.